Hello there, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book. I have my Deer Stalker on, and that is because the game is afoot. I am doing a Sherlock Holmes-themed tag, and that is Holmes is where the heart is. This was created by Mark at Booktime with Elvis, and I was tagged by Will Chambers, so thank you, Will. I'll leave the link to both of their videos in the description below. I haven't done a tag in ages, it feels like. I was going to do the cheesy one, but then there's too many questions and I got stressed out, so I didn't do it. This one's easy because it's sort of themed around Sherlock Holmes, and I love Sherlock Holmes and mystery books in general. So let's go through it. I forgot to get the questions up. Right. Elementary, my dear Watson. Share a classic mystery novel that you consider a must-read. I'm going to get the obvious person out of the way straight away, and that is Agatha Christie. If you haven't read any Agatha Christie, you should definitely give her a go. There's a reason why she's like the best-selling author of all time. This is a bit shiny. There we go. Let's go this side. This is probably her most well-read and loved book, and then there were none. And there's a good reason for that. It's just a brilliant mystery. It's set on an island, on a house on an island, and all these guests turn up. None of them know each other, and they don't know why they've been sent to the island. Why they've been invited to the island. And when they get there, there's no host. There's just two servants, and slowly people start dying. So the mystery is, why are they there? Why have they been chosen? Why have they been murdered? Who are the hosts? Everything in it is a mystery. It's brilliantly done, and it's not Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot, so it's just a standalone one. Well, they're all standalones, but it's not a character one. But highly recommend it. I really like this cover as well. Let's go next question. Baker Street Irregulars. Recommend a book with a group of unlikely heroes or a diverse ensemble cast. I am going to pick my old friend, the man who got me into reading, Mr. Terry Pratchett, and more specifically, the Guards books. You can tell why I got into Terry Pratchett when I was a kid. Look how amazing the artwork is on his books. But yeah, the Guards books are my favourite of the Discworld novels. If you don't know Discworld, it's sort of a fantasy world, and there's a big series of novels, something like 50 or 60 novels, but there's little sort of batches of storylines in them, so you don't really need to start anywhere specifically. And actually, most people would recommend not to start at the beginning because he wasn't quite up to his later standards then. I think this is a great place to start because I think it's one of the first books. It's in the first 5 books I think he wrote, but it's the first Guards one. And the Guards are the city watch of Discworld, of Ankh-Morpork, the capital city. The Discworld is a disc that sits on, I think it's a big turtle, and the turtle is on elephants, or maybe that's the other way around. But it's a ridiculous sort of thing. It's based on a real mythology thing. But Pratchett sort of makes fun of a lot of stuff. He's very Shakespearean. He does a lot of Shakespeare in his books, but he's hilariously funny as well. So if you want some sort of light-hearted, funny fantasy books, very much recommend these. But yeah, this one is the first book in the City Guards, and the Guards are a diverse group in themselves because you have humans, you have a werewolf, you have is it a dwarf, that everyone thinks is a man, but it's actually a woman, and they don't realise that women, dwarfs, have beards as well. And there's Nobby. He's like a smelly little street urchin. It's got a very diverse sort of strata of society and different sort of races and sexualities and stuff as well. So very good. I love them. They're hilarious and they're like comfort reads. The game is afoot. Name a book that had a plot twist or revelation that completely surprised you. I'm gonna have to go back to the master. Unfortunately, I don't like to pick the same author twice, but this will link into a later question as well. And I'm going to pick The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie again. This is my favourite Agatha Christie book because the plot twist is brilliant, and I therefore cannot talk about this book at all. But it's a brilliant plot twist, and it feels unique. But it isn't unique because there's another book that I've read and that's going to be in this list later. But yeah, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I won't even talk about the plot. It's a brilliant Agatha Christie. Read it if you haven't. 221B Baker Street. Talk about the time you visited somewhere of literary significance. I was racking my brain about this one. I can't think of many. I mean, I live in London, so there's loads of literature things here that you walk past on a daily basis. I did last year go to Bath on a sort of Jane Austen pilgrimage. I also went to Box Hill in Surrey twice as well, which is where that scene in Emma is set, where they go out for the day and she's incredibly rude, and it's sort of incredibly cringy but brilliantly done. But yeah, I went to Bath and had a look around at lots of things that are mentioned in Jane Austen. There's the pumping rooms, which I didn't actually go in because they were an absolute rip-off. It's a ridiculous price to go. And it was rammed at all times, and I don't like that. So I just sat outside. And what's it? The military. I can't remember what it's called. The curvy road that's used in every single adaptation of Regency stuff. And I went to the Jane Austen Museum as well, which I thought would have some stuff that was Jane Austen's in it, but it doesn't. It's more about her life and story and stuff, and there's actors in there that act out things. I think Katie from Books and Things used to work there. It's fun though. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Bath, even though I booked my trip I went with my mum because my mum was visiting. She lives in New Zealand. I booked it last minute and it was like 400 quid or something ridiculous. My entire trip to Germany was less money. We'll go next question. Moriarty's master plan. Discuss a book where the antagonist was exceptionally cunning and memorable. I've gone with a book I read recently, and that's The Talented Mr. Ripley. And I think this is a very memorable antagonist because Ripley is the antagonist, so you are following the antagonist rather than the people trying to sort of catch him. And you kind of want him to get away with it. Like he's sort of a messed up kid, but very charming, and sort of you just want him to get away with it. And it's brilliantly done. This book, it's brilliantly written, so it makes you want the antagonist to win. So that's why it's very memorable. I need to read the rest of the series. I think some of the I remember Criminally saying she didn't want to write anymore, so the last one's a bit dodgy. But The Art of Deduction. mention either a book that kept you guessing all the way to the end, or one where you guessed the outcome early on. This one I'm going to pick is a book. I think I gave it 1 star, where I predicted the outcome. Maybe I gave it 2 because my work colleague recommended this book to me, and I was always recommending her books, and she never read them. So I was like, "Oh, I'll read it straight away." And it's The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I don't know how to say it's Greek. Michaelides. I don't know. But it's the exact same plot as The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. So I guess the murderer within like 10 pages, and also it's just full of plot holes and it's a load of old rubbish. So yeah, The Silent Patient, and then I wrote a really bad review of it, and it annoyed my colleague because she'd recommended me this book and given it 5 stars, and then I savaged it. But yeah, it is rubbish, and I am right, and she is wrong. Yeah, so read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, don't read that rubbish. The Hound of the Baskervilles. Talk about a book with a strong atmospheric setting, or the one where the setting plays a significant role in the story. Whenever I think of setting, I immediately think of Wuthering Heights, but Mark chose that, so I will go with a more recent book, and that is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. One of the sort of strange occasions where prize givers have been incredibly correct, although the women's prize are always pretty good. But I was surprised they gave it to a fantasy novel. Piranesi, this is a lovely cover as well. Piranesi is got an incredibly weird setting. It's sort of in almost a labyrinth, but it's a sort of, I picture it as like a museum where it's all marble, and there's statues in every room, and none of the rooms are the same, and the rooms are seemingly infinite. And in some of the rooms, there's like sea coming in and stuff. It's a really weird and brilliantly done little novel. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and I had sort of DNF'd Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Not because I didn't think it was any good, but I just wasn't in the mood for it. And this was about 10 years ago. But I got this because it was short and it had a pretty cover, and it was absolutely brilliant. And the setting is incredibly memorable. And I do need to go back and read Mr. Strange and Dr. Norrell. Is it the other way around? I don't know. Doctor Strange and Mr. Norrell, that's it. The Reichenbach Falls. Talk about a series that you'd thought had ended but made a surprise comeback. I struggled with this one a bit because I don't really read super long series that don't get finished, but I will go with books I was very fond of when I was a kid. The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first in the Wheel of Time books. These are seemingly endless, like dusty, and incredibly long. I remember when I was a teenager, I used to like read one of these in a day. It was I used to fly through them. But yeah, he died, Robert Jordan, and then Brandon Sanderson took over, and that's kind of what made Brandon Sanderson's name. And now all fantasy has to be Brandon Sanderson. So, and if you're not doing world building, what are you even doing? But yeah, apparently his ones are good though. I didn't actually finish him, but yeah, Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. I was very fond of these when I was a kid. I was very surprised that they made a TV series out of this as well, because it's kind of complex magic, and a lot of it I remember being absolutely sort of mad, and a lot of it is, yeah, it's hard to make complex magic things into a TV series. But I watched the first series and I thought it was surprisingly good compared to, like, it came out around the same time as the Rings of Power, which was absolute tripe. That is a good segue into the next question. Sherlockian adaptations. Discuss your favourite book to screen adaptation or a retelling of a classic story. I'm gonna go with three different ones here, and they're just straight up adaptations, but I don't hear them talked about a lot, and I think they're brilliant films. The first one I'm going to go with Kurt Vonnegut's Mother Night. So there was an incredible adaptation of this book, and I think it's one of Kurt Vonnegut's best books. And the film has John Goodman, and the main character is Nick Nolte, and Alan Arkin's in it as well. And the girl from Twin Peaks, the one that gets murdered, Laura Palmer, she's in it. And it's about a man who is living in, he's an American, but he's living in Germany when the war breaks out, Second World War. And he's recruited by a spy, his fairy godmother, who tells him to become a Nazi and get ingrained in the Nazi party. He's a playwright, but he becomes a Nazi, and he becomes like a brilliant Nazi and does radio talks, and he's giving code away in the radio talks, but no one knows he's a spy. And he's so good at being a Nazi that he questions whether it's mostly like it's flashbacks after the war. But he's so good at being a Nazi, he's sort of like, did I do more harm than good? And no one knows that I was a spy. It's brilliantly done, and the music in it is incredible. The adaptation, and Kurt Vonnegut appears in one scene as well. I'll try and leave a link to the scene if I remember. There's a brilliant scene where Kurt Vonnegut appears, and I watched that scene, and then that made me want to watch the movie. The next one adaptation that I don't see talked about a lot is Housekeeping by Marilyn Robinson. There's a great film of this, and it's got Christine Leahy in it. And then it was made like the year before Running on Empty, which Christine Leahy's in as well, and it's a brilliant film as well. So she had a stellar 2 years. This is sort of about a little kid who gets jumped around when she's young because her parents die, and she ends up sort of basically being looked after by the black sheep of the family, who's this sort of aunt who has clear sort of mental issues, bipolar or something, but she just wanders off a lot, and it's not all there, but brilliantly portrayed in the film. And it's just a beautiful film and a beautiful book as well. All Marilyn Robinson books are beautiful. And the third adaptation I want to mention is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. The book gets a lot of praise, but I never see people talking about the film too much. And it was one of Mike Nichols' early films. Again, Alan Arkin, big Alan Arkin fan. Alan Arkin plays Usarian. It's got a weird cast. Art Garfunkel's in it, from Simon and Garfunkel. And so is Orson Welles as well, an older, fatter Orson Welles. But yeah, brilliantly done film. Beautiful shots of planes and things. The Second World War novel, so they really hired loads of Second World War planes and stuff. Catch-22. I actually preferred the film than the book, which is a bit sacrilegious, but I did read this book when I was really young. But yeah, it's about the sort of absurdity of war, and these are American World War II pilots, and obviously there's a horrible casualty rate, and they're all terrified to get in their planes, and have seen in these endless missions to complete before they can go home. But yeah, the film's beautiful, and I don't see a lot about it. Last question. The Great Detective recommend a book with a brilliant and memorable protagonist. I'm going to recommend 16 books instead. This is the first book in Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderling series, and it's Assassin's Apprentice. And the protagonist is a boy called Fitz, and over 16 books you follow Fitz from now when he's this sort of little mysterious looking boy to as a very old man, and also you follow the Fitz and the Fool. They're the two protagonists really. There are a few books in the series where you don't actually. There's quite a lot where Fitz doesn't appear. There's the Live Ship Traders series, which is my personal favourite actually, and that's the second series. And then there's the Dragon. Oh, I forget what it's called now, but there's 4 shorter books where Fitz doesn't really appear very much as well. I don't think he appears at all. Maybe he does. I can't remember. But over the 16 books, you follow Fitz through 3 of the trilogies, and they're brilliant books. Fitz can speak to animals. He is a kind of magic where he can communicate with animals, and he is a sort of wolf called Night Eyes that he's bonded with. And I see a lot of fantasy these days that's kind of like torture porn sort of thing, where your protagonist goes through absolute hell, and this kind of is like that. He doesn't always have a good time, old Fitz, but they're brilliantly written, and like he's friends with animals. He can talk to animals. They're brilliant, and I sort of miss them now. I finished them. They're really chunky. This is quite a small one, but yeah, when you read 16 books in a series, you know they're good. So I want to go with Fitz from Assassin's Apprentice. Okay, that's the Holmes is where the heart is tag. I don't know who's been tagged in this, and I'm terrible at tagging. I really should think about it before I start doing the videos, but I won't tag anyone because I don't know who's done it. But let me know if you've got any good answers to these questions. Are you a big Sherlock Holmes fan?